Have you ever felt like you're stuck? Like you're meant for something bigger, but you just can't seem to break through? Listen to me. This moment right now is not the end of your story. It's not even close because God didn't create you to settle. He didn't put you on this earth just to survive. He made you to thrive. You were made for more than your doubts, more than your past, more than the fear that's been holding you back. And today, I want to remind you that the very thing you think is stopping you might just be the setup for your greatest breakthrough. So let's go there. Let's talk about it. Because you weren't just made to exist, you were made for more. Before you ever took your first breath, before anyone even knew your name, God had already designed you with purpose. You are not a mistake, not an afterthought, and certainly not just another person blending into the crowd. The world may try to label you based on where you come from, what you've been through, or even the mistakes you've made, but none of that changes the fact that you were created intentionally. Think about it. Every detail about you, from your personality to your strengths, was crafted by God for a reason. You weren't randomly placed in this time, in this place, with these opportunities. You are here because there is something inside of you that this world needs. And yet, so many of us walk around feeling like we don't matter, like we're just existing without any real significance. That's a lie the enemy wants you to believe, because if he can convince you that your life doesn't have meaning, he can keep you from stepping into your God-given destiny. When you look at the world, it's easy to compare yourself to others, to feel like you don't measure up. Maybe you've told yourself that if you were just a little smarter, more talented, or had a different past, then you'd be worth something. But God doesn't make mistakes. Everything about you, the way you think, the way you dream, even the things you've struggled with, He can use all of it for something greater. You don't have to earn your worth. It was given to you the moment God formed you. If you ever feel overlooked, unseen, or like your life doesn't matter, remember that God doesn't create anything without purpose. Every struggle you've faced, every setback, every challenge, it's all been part of something bigger than you realize. When you're in the middle of it, it's hard to see anything beyond the pain, beyond the frustration, beyond the questions that keep running through your mind. Why is this happening? Why does it feel like I'm constantly fighting battles no one else can see? But what if the very thing you see as an obstacle is actually preparation? What if the thing that's been pressing against you is actually shaping you? Gold is only purified through fire. Diamonds are only formed under extreme pressure. Strength is only built through resistance. The things that are weighing you down today might just be the very things that will lift you up tomorrow. The moments that feel like breaking points are often the ones that prepare you for what's next. But if you give up in the middle of the struggle, you'll never see what God was preparing you for. Look back at your life for a moment. There were things you didn't think you would make it through, but you did. There were seasons that felt unbearable, but somehow you kept moving. And even though you may not have seen it then, every hardship was teaching you something, refining you, strengthening you. You didn't just survive those moments, you were being equipped by them. So often we pray for growth, for impact, for greater things, but we don't realize that preparation doesn't always feel good. It stretches you, challenges you, and forces you out of comfort. But God is not wasting your pain. He's using it. What looks like struggle today is actually training for the purpose He's calling you into. Fear has a way of creeping in when you least expect it. It whispers in your ear, reminding you of everything that could go wrong, every reason you're not qualified, every mistake you've ever made. It tells you that you're not good enough, not strong enough, not capable enough. It convinces you to play it safe, to stay where it's comfortable, to avoid the risk of failure. Fear wants to keep you small because it knows that if you ever step into who you were created to be, you will be unstoppable. The enemy uses fear as a weapon, not because he has power over you, but because he knows he can't stop what God has already placed inside you. So he tries to make you stop yourself. He plants doubt in your mind, makes you question your worth, your purpose, your calling. If he can keep you second-guessing yourself, if he can keep you afraid of stepping out in faith, he doesn't have to fight you, you'll stay stuck all on your own. Think about how many times you've held back because of fear, how many opportunities you've walked away from because the what-ifs seemed too big, how many dreams you've put on hold because you were afraid of failing, afraid of what people might think, afraid that you weren't ready. But fear is a liar. It magnifies your insecurities, but it never tells the truth. The truth is, you are more capable than you think. The truth is, you have everything you need inside of you to do what God has called you to do. The truth is, fear has no power unless you give it permission to stay. Faith isn't just about believing, it's about moving. It's about taking steps even when you can't see the whole picture. So many people wait for the perfect moment, for absolute certainty, for a guarantee that everything will work out before they act. But faith doesn't work that way. Faith requires action. It demands that you step forward even when you feel unqualified, even when you feel afraid, even when you don't have all the answers. God has placed something inside of you, a dream, a calling, a purpose. But that purpose won't just happen on its own. You can't just sit back and hope it falls into place. You have to step into it. You have to move even when it doesn't make sense. You have to trust that if God called you to it, He will equip you for it. Faith is more than a feeling, it's a decision. A decision to walk when you don't know the outcome. A decision to trust even when it's uncomfortable. A decision to take the next step even when the road ahead is unclear. Think about the people in the Bible who experienced miracles. Every single one of them had to take action. Peter had to step out of the boat before he could walk on water. The woman with the issue of blood had to push through the crowd to touch Jesus' robe. The blind man had to wash in the pool before he could see. Their faith wasn't just in their hearts, it was in their actions. If they had stayed still, if they had let fear or doubt hold them back, they would have missed what God had for them. Faith requires movement, and movement unlocks the doors that fear tries to keep shut. Too often, we put limits on what God can do in our lives. We look at our past mistakes, our weaknesses, our shortcomings, and we assume that those things define what's possible for us. We tell ourselves that we aren't talented enough, smart enough, strong enough, or worthy enough to step into something greater. But God's plan for you is not based on your limitations, it's based on His power. And His power is not limited by anything you've been through, anything you lack, or anything the world says about you. When God calls someone, He doesn't check their resume first. He doesn't ask if they have the right qualifications or if they feel ready. He simply calls, and when He calls, He equips. Throughout the Bible, we see this pattern over and over again. Moses thought he couldn't lead because he wasn't a good speaker, but God used him to free an entire nation. David was just a shepherd boy, overlooked and underestimated, but God saw a king. Gideon hid in fear, thinking he was the weakest of his family, yet God called him a mighty warrior. Your potential is not defined by what you see in yourself, it's defined by what God sees in you. And He sees more than you can imagine. He sees the impact you can have. He sees the gifts He placed inside you. He sees the doors He's ready to open if you're willing to step forward in faith. The only thing that can truly limit you is the belief that you are limited. When you shift your focus from your own abilities to God's abilities, you realize that there is no dream too big, no calling too impossible, and no obstacle too great. Everything we've talked about today leads to one undeniable truth. You were made for more. You were not an accident, not a mistake, not just another person going through the motions of life. God created you with purpose, and every struggle you've faced has been preparing you for something greater. The fear that's been holding you back is a lie, and the only way to silence it is to step out in faith. Faith requires action. It requires you to trust that even when you can't see the full picture, God is still leading you, still equipping you, still making a way. So now, the choice is yours. You can keep living small, held back by doubt, fear, and insecurity, or you can step into the life you were created for. No more waiting for the perfect moment. No more believing the lies that say you aren't enough. No more settling when you were made for so much more. It's time to move. It's time to rise. It's time to step into the calling that has been on your life since the very beginning. You were made for more. So go after it with everything you have.